See the chamber?
Mm-hmm. Well, good evening, everybody. We'll call this meeting to order and return from open session.
I move to return to open session.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
I thought I just did. Yes. If you'll join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second?
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes, first up we have a public hearing, 8057 Beachmont Avenue.
Good evening. This is a zone change request in case 2-2022 Anderson. The location is at 8057. The applicant is Jonathan Evans on behalf of Evans Engineering and Design, who is also representing Kenwood Lincoln Mercury, the property owner. The current zoning is C residence, and the request is a zone change to EE Planned Business District. And this is for the purpose of constructing a parking lot for vehicle inventory, 133 additional parking spaces. The applicant recently purchased property from St. Timothy's Episcopal Church, which is located next door adjacent to the Subaru dealership. And again, the intent is to expand their existing parking for vehicle inventory. 133 spaces, a landscaping plan is also proposed, detention as well as a retaining wall. The impervious surface ratio would be 55%. A little bit of history on this site. 8507 Beachmont has remained undeveloped, and this is part of the was formerly the neighboring St. Timothy's Episcopal Church. 8057 Beachmont Avenue is the Volkswagen. This site was rezoned into a planned district in 1987. The latest modification to that was in 2010, and this was for an addition and parking lot reconfiguration. And then 8021 Beachmont is the Subaru. The latest modification to this site occurred in 2011, which also entailed an addition for an expanded body shop as well as a reception area. As far as the case history for this zone change, the Regional Planning Commission held their public hearing on March the 3rd and made a motion of approval with the following conditions, and there were 4 conditions which passed. And then the Zoning Commission heard the case on March the 28th, 2022, recommended approval with 11 conditions, and we'll get more into the conditions here shortly. So this is the St. Timothy's is right here, just off of the Cagis map. The area outlined in red is the site in question. It entails a total of 1 acre. This is the existing Subaru dealership and the Volkswagen dealership. This is the zoning map. So in the red, it's either EE, which is planned retail business, or E, which is retail. The yellow is either C, single family. Actually, it's all C, single family. And then the property to the south, this is the New England Club Witchire Glen property, and that's zoned a mixture of B, community unit plan, and DD, multifamily, planned multifamily. This is the 2022 comprehensive plan, the future land use map, which identifies the site as general mixed use. This is an aerial of the site in question. It's currently a wooded lot. And again, this is the parking, the existing parking that will be expanded or is proposed to be expanded. This is the creek that runs under New England Club Drive and separates this site from the residential uses to the south. This is the topography of the site. As you can see, there is a pretty steep drop off from the proposed parking lot to the creek, and then it rises again to the condos at Witchire Glen. This is the proposed site plan, expansion of the parking lot. This is an old landscape plan. The Zoning Commission recommended additional landscaping, and again, we'll discuss the conditions. We'll come back to that. This is the revised site plan. So one of the The site plan that was submitted to the zoning commission did not identify a 10-foot side yard setback of the parking lot to the residential zoning line, and that has been modified for you tonight. So no variance request is being asked for the side yard setback. As you can tell, there's a little jog in the parking lot. There's a little bit of an angle. There is tandem parking, which is permitted for automotive sales parking, and then the detention would be to the south of the lot, which ultimately would let out to the creek. Again, this is just a color rendering. The topography map. So these are some of the site photos looking east from the Subaru parking lot. This is looking along the southern portion of the parking lot to the west. Looking along the border of the Volkswagen dealership. Southeast corner of the Subaru parking lot. This is looking east at where the parking lot would be expanded towards St. Timothy. And this is a drone shot showing the area where the parking lot is proposed to be expanded. And this is that little parking lot that you could see from the aerial before over at St. Timothy's. Same area, just a different vantage point. We took this shot just so you could show the proximity of the condos from Wishire Glen. These are the condos. So again, the topography, there's a steep decrease in grade for the creek, and then it comes back up to the condos.
So how far back, like looking at that picture, will it go toward the condos about? Can you
That was a question the zoning commission asked as well, and we did a measurement, and I believe it was over 300 feet from the edge of the proposed parking lot. So these are the agency reports. The county engineer deferred to ODOT, and since there were no proposed access changes on Beachmont Avenue, ODOT did not have any comments. During the prior zone changes, there were access management requirements, and that is not proposed to change. They both have access to signalized intersection at Nagel. So that's not proposed to change, and they had no further comments. Hamilton County Soil and Water, this will be reviewed to them once a formal application is made to them, and they will oversee the detention area as well as the grading. With the zone change, we look first at compliance with the zoning resolution. The first one, Article, and there's a misspelling here, I apologize for that. Article 5.3D1F, general design requirements for the parking lot screening. It requires a parking lot to be screened on all sides that are adjacent to residential zoning. So this is to the south as well as to the east. The applicant has modified their plans to show a 4 to 6 foot tall solid fence in that area. And this, since it's unclear whether it would be 4 or 6 feet tall and what type of fence, this should be clarified during the final development plan review. The second article requires screening as well, landscaping screening. We would require 1 evergreen or shade tree per 30 lineal feet and 1 shrub. The submitted landscaping plan did not identify enough landscaping screening, so the zoning commission recommended a condition that be met, and the applicant agreed, so they are not requesting a variance for this and agreed to submit a revised landscape plan. They did not have the time to do it between the zoning commission and the trustees meeting, but they are in agreements to it. Same with a lighting plan. A lighting plan has not been submitted, but they are in agreement that they would comply with the lighting requirements. We also look at the comprehensive plan. Staff and zoning commission felt that it was compliant with the economic development chapter and land use and development chapter of the comprehensive plan, as well as the design guidelines, site planning. The parking lot is completely in the back. And we feel that with the additional screening to the residential properties that it is compliant with our design guidelines. The Economic Development Committee submitted a letter of support. The tree committee had a little bit more concern with the clearing that was to take place in order to, there is a retaining wall that would be required to level out the parking lot. And the tree committee had concerns with the amount of clearing and the landscaping plan that was submitted. And the zoning commission addressed this with several conditions, and I'll run those by you here just shortly, as well as also compliant with ANSI A300 standards. So the zoning commission's recommendation was approval because they felt that it met the 5 standards that were listed here. It's compliant with the general mixed use category of our comprehensive plan, future land use, economic health, land use and development chapters of the comprehensive plan. It's compatible with surrounding uses on Beachmont Avenue and compatible with adjacent residential uses if the appropriate buffering and screening is installed. The zoning commission felt that the health and safety of the neighborhood and the township are maintained, as well as it provides an opportunity for an applicant to realize a reasonable profit. These were the conditions that the zoning commission was recommending. Number 1, that a detailed lighting plan in compliance with the zoning resolution be submitted with the final development plan, that the height and opacity of the proposed fence comply with the zoning resolution, that a detailed landscaping plan in compliance with the zoning resolution be submitted as part of the final development plan, that there should be no loudspeakers or loudspeaker use on this portion of the dealership property subject to the zone change amendment, that a revised grading plan be submitted to determine extent of grading for the detention area and retaining wall. As part of the final development plan review, a major modification for case 6, 1987 be submitted for coordinated review. And that's because a portion of the parking expansion falls on the adjacent property, which falls under a different development plan. So the zoning commission wanted both be brought back to them for a review at the same time. Number 7, that the final development plan include the recommendations from the tree committee, except interior landscape islands shall not be required. They wanted the focus to be on the perimeter of the parking lot to buffer from adjacent residential areas. Number 8, that the lot be used for car inventory only. If the parking lot transitions to public parking, the application shall be reheard by the zoning commission. Number 9, the parking lot shall have a minimum of a 10-foot setback to the east property line, and the site plan that was before you tonight has been modified to already meet that condition. Number 10, that the vehicles be located in striped parking spaces only. And number 11, that tandem stacked parking be permitted for the inventory parking lot. So these were the recommendations from the zoning commission. The applicant has agreed to the conditions. I'll let them speak to those, but they have agreed to the conditions. And again, the site plan has been modified for their 10-foot requirement. The conditions primarily speak to landscaping along the eastern border here, as well as adding additional vegetation and trees to the south to help reforest this area once it's cleared for the detention area. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. We did have a couple of residents speak at zoning commission. Their concern were noise from loading and unloading vehicles, and the applicant clarified that that takes place at the front of the store now and will continue to take place. The trucks have a hard time getting to the back of the lot, and they don't intend for them to go to the back of the lot. There was also concern with trash and just general upkeep in the back of this area. The applicants agreed to address that situation too, but that wasn't necessarily related to the parking lot expansion.
Any questions for Paul?
So this detention area, because we're putting, taking out a lot of trees and putting in a lot of parking lot.
Correct.
So the detention area, that will protect the creek?
Yes. So the detention will be designed to capture the existing, the rate of water that it currently flows off of that site in addition to the parking lot. It will hold it and release it at a slower rate into the creek. There's already another existing detention basin over here just to this, sorry about my mouth, but just to the west of the site for the existing parking lot. And this will capture the water for this proposed parking lot.
Great, thanks. Would the applicant like to add anything? Okay. This is a public hearing, so if anybody would like to address the board, they may do so at this time. Seeing nobody coming up, we will close the public hearing, and do we have a motion for consideration?
Yes. I move to approve and adopt a zone change from C Residence to EE Planned Business District for property located at 8057 Beachmont Avenue.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Gerth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that mean we're not going to see any cars on Nagel anymore? On Nagel anymore?
I can't say that. We're working on it.
Okay.
I don't want to do this custom.
Thanks, guys. All right. We are moving into presentations and recognitions. We've got several. Ms. Earhart, you want to start?
Yes, thank you. The Ohio Department of Job and Family Services reports that every 30 minutes, one child is abused or neglected in the state of Ohio. Many of us are aware of the fact that healthcare workers, teachers, individuals that are mandated by state law to report child abuse and neglect, that's their responsibility. But we each have a responsibility to protect children, to protect infants and children that can't speak for themselves. And sometimes older children are afraid to tell people what they're going through. So I would encourage everyone, if you see a child that you think is abused, non-accidental injuries, fractures, bruises, if a child is malnourished, if they are neglected, if they are abandoned without adult supervision, anything that you're concerned about, I would encourage you to call 241-KIDS to report that, to protect those kids. Last year and the year before with COVID, there were increases in child abuse and neglect. And, you know, it was more behind closed doors, I would assume, because people were home. But each of us has a responsibility to protect those kids, and I would ask that you do that. I would also ask that the board consider the proclamation resolution before it.
I move to adopt the proclamation resolution designating National Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Gerth?
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Stone will take the next,
Okay.
I believe.
If you're wondering why we're all wearing these green ribbons, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so we're trying to just kind of kick it off tonight. 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. experience mental illness each year. Almost 2 million adults in Ohio have a mental health condition, and 113,000 Ohioans ages 12 to 17 have depression, and 51% did not receive any care in the last year. So this is an issue. I mean, we see it. I think it got worse during COVID. And it does exist in Anderson Township. But, we're not exempt. Mental illness and mental health issues are everywhere. So with that, I would like to adopt a resolution designating May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Anderson Township.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Gerth?
Yes.
And just so you know, we have these on, it does kick off in May. The Anderson Mental Health Collaborative is organizing a campaign. It's called Go Green. So we're encouraging people to wear green, do a green ribbon, something during the month of May. If you're are associated with any kind of groups or businesses or your book club or something, try to get everybody to wear green and take a picture and post it on social media, if you use social media, with the hashtag Mental Health Matters. We're just trying to get this campaign and raise awareness. So it's Go Green, hashtag Mental Health Matters. So we will be doing it. The park commissioners did this on Tuesday night. The school board did it last night, and then tonight we're trying to kick it off. So
Very good.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dee.
Thanks.
Paul?
Thank you. We have another proclamation for your consideration designating May as Bike Month in Anderson Township. I think it's safe to say that our trails program in the township is one of our most popular programs. It not only encourages alternative transportation, but it encourages a healthy lifestyle. It encourages folks to get out and exercise. It's biking, walking, all of that, our initiatives are both our Transportation Advisory Committee as well as our We Thrive Anderson Committee. And the township has made great strides to improve our trails networks, which permit riding of bicycles, but we've also are taking steps to incorporate complete streets into our planning efforts. Complete streets are streets that are not only are for the vehicles, but also are for pedestrians and for bicycles. So we recognize the importance of bicycles in the township, not only for kids, but for adults as well. And so we have a proclamation for your consideration.
I move to adopt the proclamation resolution designating May 2022 as Bike Month in Anderson Township.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. PJ, I think you're next.
Good evening. So this first presentation is an update on where things stand with the tree committee. So this is our 2022 annual report. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim Kloppenberg, who will be doing our presentation for tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, PJ. I'm a member of the tree committee. A couple of other members are here too. So this is really a wonderful community. We're the first green space township in Ohio. Our school district is named Forest Hills. We love our trees, and we feel very proud to be part of a tree committee to help further that. So what we're really trying to do with it is we're trying to promote good tree management practices. And fortunately, many of us have had the opportunity to go to the State Foresters Tree Commission Academy, or tree school as we call it. And so those of us who are not arborists or something like that have learned enough that we can contribute some of the ideas. So we've got a lot of these good practices going. There's several things that we do with the tree committee. One of the more popular ones is each fall, and fall ends up being January by the time they're in the ground, we plant some trees. We offer a variety of trees, large and small, to residents for free when their street is being worked on, or sidewalk work or curb work. And this particular, well, actually you can see on this, if you can read the fine print from the back, we've planted well over 700 trees so far. And usually in a given year, maybe 10 or 15% of the people who are eligible to get one choose to get one. We wish it was a higher number, but we're delighted to get some in the ground. We always offer a variety of choices, and some of these choices are very familiar with, oaks and maples. Some of them are maybe not quite as familiar. And we want to encourage large trees where there's enough room for it. But if people really insist on a small tree, even in a large part, we'll give it to them because they'll take care of it. So in a minute, I'll show you the numbers of each one that were chosen. But there's a nice wide variety each year, and it's a different variety because one of the things that we do is we look at all the trees that we have, our whole inventory of street trees in the township, and we're trying to encourage people to choose trees that are not widely planted already. So we're trying to get diversity there. That way the next bug that comes through, like the ash borer, isn't going to wipe everything out. So what were chosen this year, we had almost all the species were chosen. If you could see that the most popular one was thundercloud plum. I have one of those in my front yard, and I've had for several years, and it's just spectacular. I can see why people like that tree. But they're all interesting in their own way. And every tree has its own story. For instance, we've got a serviceberry, and when they're ripe, most years we don't get them ripe because the birds get them, but last year the cicadas were so filling up the birds, so we actually picked quite a few. But my grandkids and the neighborhood kids will be picking on the low branches while the birds take it off the top of the tree. So these provide shade, beauty, and a lot of joy. So I really like having a wide variety of trees. If you look at the color coding here, each year we've identified the streets that were offered these free trees. And collectively now, over this many years, we have covered a large percentage of the trees in the streets in the township. There's still a few that haven't been approached yet, but each time we get somebody, and usually it's PJ, who goes out and looks at all the streets that are going to be worked on, and then what he'll do is he'll determine if a particular house already has so many trees that they can't use another one, he won't bother them. But all the trees, all the houses that could use a tree potentially, then they'll be contacted. And we'll show glossy pictures of what the trees look like when they're grown, how big they'll be, and so on. And then people choose their trees. So another thing we're proud of with the tree committee is Arbor Day Foundation has an award they call Tree City USA. Many of you have probably seen the signs here and in other communities. Well, we've had it for 13 years. We've been doing a really good job for a long time. And there are a variety of things that are required. A tree committee or board, we have that. An ordinance that was written, I believe it's been updated before. We need to spend at least $2 per capita on tree-related expenses and some sort of Arbor Day observation. And I'll talk about that again in a moment. So we're pretty frugal here. We meet the $2 threshold, but we don't beat it by a whole lot. So Arbor Day also has an additional thing they call Growth Award. So this is sort of above and beyond the basic Tree City. And they have a point system for this. And there are a lot of different things that you can do to get this. And different years, we've used different points. But one of the things that we consistently do is we have little articles in Anderson Insights telling people things about trees. We have the awards that we've mentioned. And it's sort of hard to read there, but on the third line, it says we have 4 categories: shade tree, ornamental tree, evergreen, and fall color tree. At one time, our 4th category was tree groves, but we didn't have enough groves that were recommended. And there really are a lot of just trees that are stunning in the fall. So we thought that we could separate that as a separate category. And the winners this year, they're a couple slides down the line. Let me finish this one first. Another thing that we do is education. And as part of the education, one of the things that we're doing is we have now our Arboretum. And I think it's just a wonderful little setting that we have at the Heritage Arboretum, the 200-year-old building and the grounds. When we first started just a couple of years ago, we identified the minimum of 25 different species of trees, and we're well over double that number now, and the number keeps changing, partly because as volunteers under Suzanne's guidance clear away some of the invasives at the edge of the woods, we're finding new things that are popping up that we didn't know were there. And we're not allowed to plant anything in the green space, but we can claim a species that we find there. And so we're getting a few more of those. And we also are working on updating our master plan so that we will have broad agreement on exactly what will be planted and where they'll be planted and so forth. We hosted a sort of a mini conference one day with the state forester, bringing people in to talk about how other communities could start an arboretum. We had people from Spring Grove and from some of the more established arboreta that were describing some of their activities. But we also described what we did as a small one to go from nothing to being certified. And people asked us a lot of questions, and there are several of these communities that some of us are following up with. And so, that's a plus. We also brought in a bunch of the science teachers for one day. This was in August, so it was a little bit late for them to put something new in their curriculum for this coming year. But we have one member of this group that decided to join our tree board, and we are really actively looking because we're convinced that this arboretum has three components. One really is the physical facility with the trees and the land. A second one is our online presence, and PJ's been really good at building that up, but there's more things we can still do. And then the third thing is all the partnerships and outreach and education that we can use this for. So working with Forest Hill Schools on that, I think, is really important. And it's a great opportunity for us. So the tree winners. And each one of these has a story to tell, and I think you're probably the one who's presenting. So I'm going to let you.
Sounds good.
I'm going to let you do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have, as Tim mentioned, there's 4 different categories where where the committee chooses winners. A lot of these images were taken by the committee, but if anyone has trees in mind, we'll always accept those nominations as well. So first up, the shade tree winner is a sycamore over at 1144 Altadena Avenue, William Downing. Awesome, thank you. Thank you. Absolutely.
Congratulations.
The ornamental winner was the tree committee's own Sonia Shively, who she has her award with her right now as well.
Hey, Sonia.
The evergreen winner is the Southern Magnolia over at 6045 Gwendolyn Drive for Angela and Brett Harnett. Not sure if they're here. The fall color winner is a sugar maple over at 2010 Wolfangle Road, and that's the Clough United Methodist Church. So.
Love that
Yay.
color. Congrats.
All right, and then last but not least from the tree committee, one of the proclamations before you this evening is declaring April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day here in Anderson Township. As Tim mentioned, it's part of our certification to become Tree City USA.
Okay. I move to adopt a resolution declaring April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in Anderson Township.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, PJ.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, everyone.
Great
Hi,
job.
Bruce.
Next up, road construction projects. Steve, you taking this?
I am, and to show you how technology goes, we're handing around a laptop, and when we started this process 15 years ago, we had boards that we would walk around and stick up, so we've come a long way. For nearly, I think it's been actually 17 years, we have done an annual inventory of roadway projects that are coming up here in Anderson Township. We did this initially for a couple specific reasons, the most important of which is that we were finding that long before having a transportation czar became popular, we didn't have anybody out here that was coordinating that effort here in the township. So Planning and Zoning Department, Development Services at that point in time reached out, and we've been doing it ever since. Each January and February, we contact our neighboring municipalities, utility providers, various entities to determine what projects they may have on the board for the coming year to namely try to make sure that we're not cutting ourselves off, that we don't have parallel roadways under construction, that we're coordinating those efforts. We do lie on a peninsula, one of the benefits of our community, in addition to trees, is the beautiful rivers and streams that we have, but they cut us off from the majority of the area to the west and to the south. So it's critical that we keep those routes open. I just want to touch on a few of the highlights we have for this year. There are maps and tables at the rear of the room when you folks signed in. This is also available on our website, which I'm pulling up right now, and we'll post this tomorrow on Facebook, so you're getting a sneak preview of that. But a couple of the major projects that we have for this year, and I'm going to try my best maybe to zoom in. Hopefully you can maybe look on the page that you have in front of you. But the yellow areas, Public Works Department is already well underway with the curb and sidewalk repair program for this year. So, Eric, I believe there's 30 streets that you're under construction at, and you're currently up in the area off of Little Dry Run. So this is the most robust curb and sidewalk program that we've had in ever, I believe. And so, PJ, you'll be really busy later this year following up with all these folks to try to get trees planted in twice as many front yards as we normally would work with. For those that are not aware, those streets that are in yellow, which are, again, off of Little Dry Run, the Washington Hills subdivision, Washington Woods, Mont Chateau, Chateau Hills, and then over in Summit. I believe, Eric, with this work, that'll complete all of the east side of Summit at the end, with curb and sidewalk. And then next year, we'll be on those same roadways with asphalt. It's a biennial process. So that project is already underway. In that same kind of vicinity, in the northern part of the township, the county engineer has started with the resurfacing of Lawyer Road. If you were out there today, you were delayed, and you will be for this first part of the work, and then they'll be back doing more work here later in the spring. But that is the resurfacing of Lawyer Road in its entirety. They're also, the county engineer's office will be working on Forest Road from Meadowland, which is just east of Asbury, all the way up to Beachmont. And also another project the county engineer's office will be working on this year is the resurfacing of 8 Mile Road from Beachmont up to Clough Pike. So if you're following, a couple of those areas are right in the same neighborhood as work that we're involved with. So there's a good coordination that we're doing in that area. And those projects hopefully will come online here in 2022. ODOT has a number of projects as well, highlighted by the Beachmont Bridge and the work that will be going on there through the summer. There's a number of lane closures and roadway closures that happen in the overnight hours and such. Pull up the list here as well so you can follow that way. It might be a little easier. And then ODOT will also be involved in that same area later this summer, beginning in late May into early June. They will be resurfacing State Road 32 from Beachmont Avenue all the way through the village of Newtown to Round Bottom Road. They're also engaged with some work down on the south side of the township at US 52 in Asbury for landslide repair work. And then finally, Duke Energy has a lot of projects out in our area, a lot of electrical extensions and improvements, also some tree trimming, and then some gas main work as well. And we envision that will continue, particularly in the Round Bottom area, into 2023 and beyond that way. The good news is that looking at this, we don't have a lot of projects that hopefully will be conflicting with each other. Of course, there are always things that come up. There's always private development as well that has impacts on roadways, particularly with regards to sanitary sewer closures. And we'll continue to use our website and Facebook page to get that information out. But some of this was touched upon in the Anderson Insights that arrived in homes. Again, the rest of it will rely on social media and continue social media presence to get the word out to folks. So if there's any questions on any of those projects, I think our team will be happy to answer those.
Very good. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
With that, we're going to move into the public forum section of our meeting. Anyone that would like to address this board may do so at this time.
My name is Steve Wilson, a resident of Anderson Township for a long time, 50-some years. So I apologize, I haven't been here in probably 24 years, back when Peggy and Russell and Michael sat here, and of course, Ken is our blessed guy's always been here.
Ken is still here.
I apologize, Bob, the only reason I'm back is because of a problem. When I came the last time, I served on a committee for Stormwater Committee. Worked with the late Bob Leonard's, a great engineer, I think he was geotechnical engineer, and we solved some problems around the area on stormwater problems on Lawyer, and I live on Gungadin, which is adjacent this way. We left off with, we understand what happened with you. It's grandfathered. They built them all, different things under code, and you just live with the creek as it is. All of us have a creek that runs through the back, and it's a very lazy creek if you were to go there today. But when it rains, it's life-threatening. Tim would be very disappointed to hear that my backyard has lost a tree in the last 30 days. My fence is starting to go over in the last 30 days. I'm starting to lose hospice in the last 30 days. I keep moving the fence closer and closer to the house because each one of us, we don't have a common solution from a guiding committee because we were told, fix it. You know, each property owner, fix it. So each one did, some didn't. I didn't because I was told, whatever you do, any subsequent damage up and down's on you. So so some people tried and some people didn't. The reason I rise to come today, why the timing, is that was done. We had unintended consequences of years of development, which I love development, so thank you for that. It's great. We're about to do it again, this time with our eyes open. We're building right here, and we're going to put asphalt in, just like the conversation was up on Beachmont, and that water's going into the creek behind my house. I just asked this committee to reopen and look at, have we properly addressed that? Because I'm starting to lose property again. It was stable for a while, but in the last 30 days, I'm losing it again. And one tree's down, 3 more on back of my property, the only ones left. They're about to go. They go, my root structure's gone, and I'm in real trouble. And I have neighbors that I probably could have brought. They're facing the same thing. And it's only going to worsen because we just, for the sake of development, I don't want it to happen at the cost of somebody downstream. Because this time our eyes are open. We know from 24 years ago, I sat on this committee, and we tried to fix it, and they left it as, that was code back then, sorry about your luck, you're on your own. But now it's different. We know there's a problem on that creek, and we're throwing more water in it. And I'm really concerned about it. So I don't know if it's a public hearing I'm asking for just you guys to open up with whatever resources you have to look at it again. I thank you for the retention pond that we have. But when that thing hits its limit, it's done. It's done all it can do. And in that creek, literally, it would be over my head. And it goes probably at least 10 to 15 feet wide, and it becomes a river. And it's dangerous. So I'm just here to ask for help. I'm not here to discuss it tonight.
Are you near Collinsdale?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which is another topic for another night, but should make that a one-way street. Anywho, yeah, I'm off Collinsdale. Go down Collinsdale, you make a left on Gungadin, and all those homes, even this way some, and this way and even some on Grandin, all have that creek behind them. For mine, you walk out into the backyard, you come to a fence, it drops probably 5 or 6 feet, you go across the creek, which is very lazy, there's hardly any water. And then we own the other side too. All the homeowners own that side. And those trees that are close, they're starting to do their thing. So my just concern is, like I say, we're about to throw, when this all gets asphalted out here, it's going to hit that creek even faster. And the erosion is just going to worsen. And like I say, and I apologize for repeating myself, but we do it with open eyes this time. We know
I got 2 questions.
Sure.
One, you said some of your neighbors have done some work. What have they done?
Sandbags, grab logs, just lay them back there. Nobody's built an official solid retaining wall.
Okay. All right. Second, the development you're talking about, I can promise you it went through extensive research when it comes to the runoff for this very reason.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve and Vicki, but the work that we just did on the retention pond to the tune of $500,000 was specifically because that detention pond had gotten to the point where it needed to be.
Yeah, I read that they dredged it. Did they?
Yeah.
Probably
So, I mean,
to deepen it and stuff,
took,
and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, and that was a very big topic of discussion, obviously because of the expense to do it, but because of people like you and what was happening downstream. So we thought it was very important to pull the trigger on that.
I appreciate that.
To do that.
Maybe I should have come months ago.
I don't know if you guys want to add anything, but.
If I could just, I know, Mr. Wilson, you called today, and our Public Works Director, Eric Luganbuehl,
And I talked to
attempted
Molly. So.
Yes, Molly. She relayed the message to me.
Oh, you did? Not my problem. I silenced the phone, so.
But perhaps if we could chat either after the meeting, or we could contact you tomorrow with staff, and we can go through it.
Yeah, I didn't expect to go through this tonight. I just wanted to bring it up and ask. I appreciate that feedback, but I'm just telling you, something's changed in the last 30 days. It's been fairly stable since the retention pond, and now all of a sudden it's moving again with these rains. It's just they're already moving hills, and when they blacktop it, maybe the retention pond's not enough. Is there a common solution that we can throw down that everybody does? Because as I say, Steve, fix it. Okay, I'll drop whatever 10, 15 grand, fit the wall up. And then if my neighbors say, I'm getting erosion, Steve Wilson's going to fix theirs, he's going to fix his, and if anybody else shows, I got to fix theirs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just saying, the burden's on me. Thank you for the development that we tried to fix. I was part of trying to fix that.
Yeah.
And now it's happening again, so.
Okay.
So
Well, thank
we'll
you.
reach
I
out to
appreciate
you
the feedback.
tomorrow.
Thank you for coming in.
And I apologize that it's been 34 years since I've been here. Ken, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
and thank
Thanks
you
for
very
coming.
much. No, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Did you ever?
If I could add, just because I know that Eric and myself met with Mr. Wilson and his neighbors last spring, about a year ago, late winter.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you come back, you'll notice that the fence is now dropping.
Right.
And I think you said get rid of one of those, get rid of the,
We actually invited County Soil and Water come out, and they provided some recommendations to the neighbors through there, because it's private, as ways of trying to mitigate that. What we spent here was a good effort. We also were looking, and we spent a lot of time and energy to try to look at adding technology to this lake to draw it down, which it was deemed that it wasn't beneficial to do so. I think one of the things that was an eye-opener for Eric and I when we were out there is the water that's coming off. I mean, your subdivision, the subdivision behind you, we all look up here what's upstream, but none of you have stormwater detention. You all, it's coming completely down Collins Park, and I mean, those are all.
yeah, it's
It's all funneling down to that area, but we saw that coming off the hillside behind you, off of, gosh, Eric, the back of off Pattison and Montagore and all that, Blue Crest, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So we certainly can go back and look at it, but part of the issue we have in that watershed is there are no stormwater detention basins at all. So retrofitting them is very difficult, and actually the development and the redevelopment oftentimes has less of an impact because it's detained. I'm not saying, certainly there's more water coming off that hillside than when it was grass 20 years ago, but I would argue to say that when that building is done, there'll be less runoff from that building than there is today.
That could be.
Because they're going to have gardens on top and other things on top to hold some of that in. It's not to say it's going to magically fix the situation. We certainly can talk offline, but
Okay.
it's as you indicated with the study in your hand, it's not something that happened overnight and it's going to be solved
I
overnight.
invite you to come back. You'll
Yep.
be surprised. You go, man, what happened since I was here last year?
Mhm.
Because you're going to go, dude, you're about to lose your garden. Your hospices are going over the hill. Yeah.
What's your address?
7276 Gungadin. You're welcome to come visit.
Thank
Walk
you.
right down, I walk right down the hill.
Anybody else? All right. Moving into trustee comments. Lexi D.
I guess my comment just was about the tree committee. As a resident, I sat on We Thrive, and Dee was the trustee liaison. And I will be honest, I didn't really have as much knowledge about what the tree committee did. I had an idea. I have been absolutely blown away, and too bad that Tim isn't here. He did such a good job with that presentation. What's blown me away is the expertise, the knowledge, the passion, the hours, the education, and that's been opened up to me. I've learned so much, and I'm also a nurse and a mom, and when we think about mental health and wellness, the trees, it is a critical link of that. And anytime I feel that my family, my children are having a hard time, that's the closest thing we try to get to. So just, I've been very privileged to be a part of it, and thanking the committee, Suzanne and PJ, for helping me a lot, and also including me in that. And all of that hard work, it's invaluable to this community. And I don't know that everyone knows the labor of love behind all of that. So that was just what I wanted to share today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree. I just want to talk about the great, following up on that. First of all, tomorrow's Earth Day. Happy Earth Day, everyone.
Yes.
So when we're on this theme. And Saturday is our Great American Cleanup, and that's part of the We Thrive Committee. You can come here at 8 a.m., 8:30, I think it's 8:30. 8:30 on Saturday morning and pick up garbage bags and the pickers and the vests and the whole thing. And just, you'll be assigned a street and you can clean up the street, and then it'll be picked up later by our staff. So we would love to have everyone come out for that. It's just a great way to, it's going to be beautiful on Saturday too. So it's going to be, it's been really cold in years past, and it's going to be a beautiful day, nice day to get out in the sun and just clean up our community. So that, and just the Anderson Township Senior Center, just want everyone to know they're now offering pickleball as part of pickleball lessons. If anybody's interested in pickleball, they're offering lessons on Tuesdays, and they do have a new walking club that meets at Beach Acres at 9:30 on Wednesday mornings. So these are opportunities to get outside, and all this, and you're exactly right, Lexi, has to go with mental health. It all fits in together. So being around people and active, that definitely helps with mental wellness. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dee. Couple of things. One, we are having our annual planning meeting on May 5th and 6th. I see former trustee Pappas in the crowd. I know this was your favorite day of the year. So you're more than welcome to join us for any part of that.
Or not.
Or not.
Yeah, I was good. Objection.
But we do pack a lot into a day and a half, and it is a great exercise. Second, Anderson Township Little League. Tomorrow is Anderson Township Little League Day. Jim Tavernelli reached out. He's the president. They are doing a kind of a social media campaign tomorrow. So if you're on Facebook or Twitter, you can follow them at Anderson Township Little League. They've been around for 24 years, so next year we hope to do something special to recognize them. But they serve over 1,100 kids. There's 92 teams and just over 400 volunteers in this year's Little League. And then finally, in a world of social media, there seems to be a lot of interesting things being said in this community. And if you followed a certain number of social media accounts, you might think that the world was burning. But interestingly enough, I got an email, we all got an email from Rob Fellows. Rob Fellows is the Director of Human Resources at Forest Hill School District. And he sent us an email a couple weeks ago, so I'm going to read it because it's public record. At a time in our culture where sideline critics are ever quick to cast stones, it is important for us to remember how fortunate we are to live in a place like Anderson Township. With that in mind, I was just provided a copy of the township's most recent publication, and I wanted to make sure to share with you all how impressed I am. In 30 colorful, informative pages, our community's best attributes were elevated in the eyes of the reader in a captivating, professional, and inviting manner. This undoubtedly accomplished what I am certain was its intended purpose, to both attract new individual families and businesses and also remind current residents and business owners why Anderson is such a great place. Kudos to all of you and the team that pulled this together for capturing so many of the excellent qualities in Anderson Township. Onward and upward. And that, my friends, is pretty much a great description of what's really going on in Anderson Township.
Yes.
So is that magazine. So is the new Chamber magazine. So is Anderson Insights. So if anybody gets caught up in the social media fray and is concerned about whether or not the world is falling in Anderson Township, they only need to look to what's really going on in this community. And it happens at meetings like this, and publications like that, with teams in this room, and a lot of great residents who are not on the lunatic fringe. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is not the insights. This is the one that for Welcome to Anderson. I think we might have some out at the desk, though. If you haven't seen this publication really is well designed. It shows us very well, just as right. So just take a look. I mean, I think we should enter it into a contest. I'm just saying. We
I
could win a
agree.
design contest for it. So
No, it's
if
great.
you haven't seen
Showcases
it,
what
please
we
take
do
a look.
well. Yeah,
Mhm.
in a very nice
They're
way.
both great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Before we move on to Ken, I see Hamilton County Treasurer Jill Schiller. You're in the audience. Do you want to say hello?
Yes, hi. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Really here to address you guys more than you guys. But I'm Jill Schiller. I'm your Hamilton County Treasurer. And since I took office recently in September, we've been trying to get out into the community a little bit more and just talk about what the office does and what we can do for Hamilton County taxpayers. So, as I'm sure you know, the basic responsibility of the office is to collect taxes, and we have a second due date coming up in June. But the reason that we're getting out here to talk to folks is because if you are having trouble paying your taxes, we want to help you. Now, I realize that there are varying reasons why people might be having trouble, and certainly over the past 3 years, COVID in particular has been a real problem spot for people. There's actual funds available for folks who can show that they have COVID-related financial difficulties, which you can apply for through JFS, and they will help you pay your delinquent property taxes for up to 6 months, no questions asked. We also want to make sure, though this is the auditor's office and not our office, that everybody over the age of 65 who makes less than $34,200 a year is signed up for the homestead exemption, which gives you a break on your property taxes. I know we don't have every eligible person in the county signed up for that, and we really want to get the word out there about that as well. I don't want to take up too much time tonight,
That's great.
but if you know, if you guys can get the word out there to your friends and neighbors. Also, in terms of dealing with properties that might be vacant and in bad shape, I know we've worked with the council already to help with that, so please feel free to reach out to us and our work with the land bank, and we are happy to work with you to resolve those issues.
Jill, so you said, thank you, first of all, for being here. Over 65 and less than, what was it, 30?
34,200.
That's the household income?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you're already on the program, right?
Right, you can be grandfathered and it's changed from time to time.
Okay. So
And
the,
also if you are officially disabled, you can apply.
okay.
What's the due date?
It's rolling.
When?
Rolling, you can always apply for it.
I'm just saying,
The taxes.
yeah.
It is July. I should know this off the top of my head, but I have to make sure.
We'd like it to be as soon as possible here, so.
Yes, June 20th is the second half due date. So
Okay.
I know I recall my very first payday for everybody in the county. Everybody was very happy. It's nice to have people.
Good for you.
The tax collector. Yeah, so bills will be mailed in the beginning of May, and June 20th will be the due date. And again, please also emphasize for folks to pay online. I'm sure you might be aware, but we've had a real problem in the whole county with blue mailboxes being broken into. A postal service worker was robbed and his key was taken, and it turns out they're skeleton keys, and they've been stealing checks from different blue mailboxes throughout the county and washing them, changing the recipient or the value. And we've had only 4 or 5 of those issues at the treasurer's office, but to be safe, pay everything online, and particularly with your property taxes. Fast, it's easy, it's safe.
I do have to say, this year, we got our settlement report from the auditor at the end of March. That's one of the earliest dates we ever have, and that's probably due to your office because they can't do it without the treasurer selling, so.
Thank you. Yeah, my staff has really been doing an amazing job. We've been finding ways to become more efficient and just modernizing and making things go a little more smoothly, especially with our phone systems. If you need to call and it rings and nobody answers, part of that is that the county phone system was only able to have up to 6 people in a queue before, so it just wouldn't connect. We're working on installing new phone systems, and we have brought people on for those busy times to help answer. Also, you can always email us with any questions, and that might be a little bit easier. When you mail out 200,000 bills, you tend to get a couple of people calling you questions all at the same time. So, anyways, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for being
Well,
here.
everybody out here loves paying taxes, so it's.
I know, so do I. There's nothing like writing a check to yourself and not getting to cash it.
Right.
Thank
you.
you.
Yes, I received my tax bill for like January, but it didn't have the second bill in there. Why is that, or what should I do about paying my taxes?
You'll receive a bill sometime this coming month. We mail them out twice a year. They're for half yearly payments.
Okay,
So you'll get
instead
it.
of the whole year, and then
Yeah,
okay,
you'll pay
thank
twice
you.
a year. No, no problem. Thank you.
They'll find you, Sonia.
Yeah, they'll find you. You and your beautiful trees, Sonia. They will find you.
They're coming for you.
Send pictures of the trees. We'd love it.
Yeah. Send a picture back in your bill with of the tree.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, Ken Dietz.
Yes, well, commenting on us getting our settlement early, we have now been able to calculate what the school districts are going to get. Unfortunately, Jennifer gets the report like in the morning, and I don't get there to the afternoon, and most of the work's already done before I get there, so. But we had a few little complications on our settlement report, but we're going to settle with the school districts regardless of that. It's minimal, but we're still trying to figure out where they came up with a few of their numbers. We do have a taxpayer that's in our TIF program that for some reason did not pay the first half. They paid it like 3 or 4 days late, and then therefore we do not get the monies to give to the school district, and it's a fairly large amount. And I did get a hold of the treasurer of the school district and told Lana Cropper about it, so they'll get that money in the second half. They have paid, but they got a penalty, like $30,000, so that's.
That'll teach them.
Yeah.
Wow, all right.
It's not understandable. Steve looked into it a little bit too, so, but anyway, we have the settlement reports in. We're getting the money out to the school districts that we owe for the TIF funds. They're running, I would say, pretty much what we had estimated. We're only halfway through the year. We just got the first half, but we're somewhere around 45% of what we anticipated for the whole year in our revenues. So it looks like the revenues are going to be pretty much what we had estimated. Expenses are down because we have bills that we're going to start paying later on in the year. Those will catch up. So it looks like our estimates are going to be good, and that's a good thing for our meeting coming up. Our planning meeting, we're going to have better numbers. Going to have you all be able to make some better decisions than we have in the past, because I think we have the projections, which Jennifer's worked on, I've worked on, Vicky's worked on. I think we're going to be well prepared for our planning meeting. So
Great.
That's all I have except for the minutes. I move to approve the meeting minutes from January 20th, 2022 and February 17th, 2022.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes, thanks,
Thank
Ken.
Thank you.
Margaret?
Yes. First of all, I'd just like to make a comment to the treasurer, and that is to thank your office. We walked through our DTE forms, DTE 24s that go to the state, processed through the auditor, but we can't get them through the auditor's office till we've been through your office. And we like to walk them through, and it's been really helpful that your staff is willing to do that while we stand and wait and not make us come back again later. So thank you for that. I know a lot of subdivisions try to do it the way we do. So thank you.
We try to put a big focus on customer service, so.
Yeah, it's great. In your packet, there's a resolution accepting my report to you on credit card policy compliance. You all have a credit card policy in place that has been revised a couple of times, most recently in November of 21. And by statute, there are certain procedures to follow, and you appointed me as the compliance officer for that. So I've been working with Jennifer and her staff and to put together the report for you, which is attached to the resolution approving it. The only real difference I would point out here is that Jennifer and Ken and the fiscal office have streamlined your credit so that you have fewer credit cards out, and they're concentrated really in a Visa through or MasterCard through your depository bank, which is a good improvement accounting-wise. So if you
Okay,
have any
thank you.
questions, I'll answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to adopt a resolution accepting the report of the law director as compliance officer provided pursuant to the Anderson Township credit card account policy, November 18th, 2021.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Paul Drury, back up.
So I'm going to try to get the history straight, so please bear with me on this one. But in 2020, the township was a recipient of a transportation alternatives grant through OKI, and this was for the project of connecting the Little Miami Trail to Elston Road. The next year, in 2021, we were one of the recipients of the Transit Infrastructure Grant. This was through SORTA. This was their first grant program, and we were a recipient of that to tie in with this project. In the original grant in 2020, there were several alternatives, alignments recommended for this Elston connector, and only until recently has the preferred alignment been settled on. Stantec was the engineering firm that was selected to manage that portion of the project. The township will be responsible for connecting the connector out to Beachmont Avenue. And so we are requesting, or there's a motion for your consideration to enter into contract with Stantec for our portion of the project. And again, this would be a sidewalk connection from Beachmont to the preferred alignment of the Elston connector. This project will start first, even though it was the second grant that was received, but timing-wise, this project will be first in February of 2023, followed by the construction of the other connection. So we have a motion for your consideration. We were able to negotiate a lower price for the contract with Stantec.
Okay. I move to authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated to provide engineering and design services for the Elston Road Sidewalk Project for a cost not to exceed $61,600 using 1994 TIF funds in the 2022 Anderson Trails budget.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Great, thank
Thanks.
you all.
That'd be a great project when it's done. Lieutenant McElroy.
Hey, Dan?
You have two liquor license requests in front of you tonight. The first one is for Beachmont Beverage Drive-Thru at 7172 Beachmont Avenue. This is for a transfer of ownership. New owners took possession in February. So I went there, spoke with them. Everything as far as operational is staying the same, so we have no objection, other than they're doing a little remodeling, so that's nice. But we have no objection.
Which one, where is it exactly?
Across from Skyline on
Across from
Beachmont.
Sky, oh, that
Yeah.
one, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, I move not to object to a liquor license transfer request for Geo Convenience LLC DBA Beachmont Beverage Drive-Thru located at 7172 Beachmont Avenue.
Second.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes,
Mr. Girth?
Yes. It's your neck of the woods.
it is my neck of the woods.
The second one is for Harmony at Anderson, 6201 Clough Pike. This is a new request. This is for the residents there. It's not open yet. They're supposed to be getting new residents in May. So it was news to me. I didn't know that they were, I would get a
there'll be a
liquor
bar.
license.
You're gonna have happy hour.
The way it was described to me is that they're allowed to have, with their plan, their living plan, a drink with their dinners or their
Glass of wine.
glass of wine or beer, whatever they want, with their dinners.
Can they
That's
have it
the
in their
only
room,
time
too?
that they'll really be serving it.
The way it was described to me, it was for the meal plan, but I don't know that
Well, I mean, you still have it in your room if you want it.
puts out that they
Private.
can't have it
I
in
get,
their room.
so a liquor license in a place like that, obviously.
I didn't
is
know
it
of it
That's
either.
for serving it.
No, but is it limited to a certain area in the building, or does it
They
cover the whole
won't,
property?
I talked to the owner, they said, or whoever's in charge, they said it does not go to anybody but the residents. If you have guests, they do not get any. So you can't go there.
But it covers the whole property, is that,
It
is
does,
your understanding?
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sure,
thanks.
I have no objection.
I move not to object to a new liquor license request for Cincinnati Al Operations LLC, DBA Harmony at Anderson located at 6201 Clough Pike.
Second,
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Eric, anything from Public Works? Thank you. Chief Martin?
Good evening.
Hello.
So as I'm sure you're aware, you've probably seen and people in the township have seen, at most of the businesses up and down Beachmont, we have about 6 by 6 inch black boxes that stick to the front of the building. And those are Knox boxes, and it's basically for businesses. There are some residential ones in the township. But the idea of those boxes is that if we get a run in the middle of the night or when people aren't there when they're closed, we have access. The individuals give us keys. We are the entity that puts the key in, and we're the only entity to get the key out. So that gives us access to the businesses so we don't have to break doors, break windows, things like that. Over the past few years, the Knox Box Company has endeavored to go out and sell residential boxes. So this is one of those boxes that they have. So some of our residents in the township have utilized this, but we have seen a need for a temporary basis or a temporary use of these type of devices on houses. So what you approved not too long ago was the purchase of about 10 of these residential temporary boxes. And they're residential because they have the notch in the back where they can hang over the door. So the idea of this plan is that if somebody has a temporary issue with getting around, can't answer the door, they can sign up for this program, receive one of these boxes, and it's just hanging over the door. And that way, if we go to the residence, we are able to get in. We are targeting specifically people that have limited mobility problems for about 90 days. If it goes over that, we're going to encourage them to purchase the box. And we're going to publicize this through our publications, through the Facebook. We'll put it on our page. We'll see that the union puts it on their page. And one of the other sources that we will utilize is if our units are on the scene, if our members are on the scene, they can also let the individual know that this program is available, and they can fill out the paperwork, and we can get them a box so that we can have access to the residents to get in and help them. And when we talk about over the 90 days, we would encourage people to buy them. They're about $200, but it's a lot cheaper than repairing a door, replacing a door, or even a substantial window for us to get in. So I just wanted you to be aware of this program. It's starting as of right now, and we'll be publicizing it first thing tomorrow morning.
Great.
Very nice,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah.
Well,
That
it's
looks pretty
solid metal,
fancy,
baby.
yeah.
That thing looks heavy.
It is heavy.
Let me see. Oh. Yeah.
Show and
Oh,
tell.
yeah, that's really heavy.
Wow.
Jeez.
Oh, it is. I didn't expect
That's why it costs $200.
that. Okay,
Thanks, Chief.
very good, thank you.
Yeah, you can't cut that with a. Okay.
Yes, good evening. Jennifer, if you could come on up. One of the things that administration and the fiscal office have been working on a joint project is to modernize our payroll system. Jennifer, Michelle Moxley from the fiscal office, Suzanne Parker, and I have had several meetings with different vendors that offer payroll services, and we are here tonight to ask the board to enter into a contract. But Jennifer, if you want to explain a little bit about what we're going to do.
Well, first of all, we're going to not stuff checks anymore with our check stubs. Just basically modernize the whole payroll process. For instance, instead of keeping a paper timesheet, there's an app. You go on, you enter your time into there. You can make leave requests on the website or on the app. It'll still have the control of where the supervisor still has to approve your timesheet, your time off. So there is still that control in place over the payroll. Also, you can get on the app or on a website, on a desktop, laptop, iPad. You can see your check stub. You can see your W-2 if you ever need to bring it up when you're going to get a loan. And they ask for your last 2 W-2 forms or last 2 paycheck stubs. You have it right there. It's convenient, right there on your phone. There's a lot of streamlining as far as for new employees. If we hire someone new, they will have all their forms electronically to complete online. If there's any policies, HR policies that they have to sign up or sign off on it to acknowledge, it's right there all for them. So yeah, any other questions?
Great.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So there is a resolution before you.
I move to adopt a resolution approving an agreement with Paycor, Inc. for the processing of the township's payroll and authorizing the execution and deliver said agreement.
Second,
Mrs. Slauson?
yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work on that.
Yeah, thank you. I know
We
you
hope
guys-
to have
I
the
to
new
tell you,
system.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's more accurate.
Yeah, well, it's an efficiency.
Yes.
And we hope to have it up and running mid-year.
July 1st, probably.
Yep.
Backup for me and Michelle, and if anything ever happens to come up,
Yeah.
Michelle and I, the payroll.
That's important.
Yes.
Okay. I have two more items for the board this evening. The next, there is a resolution that the board adopted in June that authorized a property transfer agreement with a trust. And since that time, we have found that the transfer agreement with the trust has been transferred to some individual property owners. So Mrs. Comey had suggested that we repeal the original resolution and authorize the property transfer agreement with the individual owners as opposed to the trust. So there is a resolution before you.
I move to adopt the resolution authorizing property transfer agreement with and acceptance of donation of real property and interest therein to the township from Michael M. Bierman and Ann T. Bierman pursuant to the authority of section 505.10 of the revised code.
Second.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. The last item is resulting from executive session, and the board has interviewed a number of candidates for the Anderson Park Commissioners appointments, and there is a motion before you.
I move to reappoint Colin Ramsey and Matt Delaney to the Anderson Township Park District Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all we have this evening.
Thank you, everybody. Next meeting in this room is May 19th. With that, move to adjourn.
Second.
Mrs. Lofton?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Happy Earth Day, everyone.
Yes.
You and the Earth Day.
Earth Day.
I mean, good Lord.
Yeah.